I'm a photographer and environmentalist. I've worked for various environmental NGOs involved in research and education, as well as a circus performer, a fish farm worker, a driver, builder and mechanic. As a development engineer, I helped develop a cooler that keeps vaccines at a safe temperature for 35 days without power. I have also spent time protesting and campaigning for a cleaner, safer world. I've found this module very difficult. I spent the last 45 years avoiding reading or writing. Due to my dyslexia, I need help to understand and fill in even simple forms as I struggle with reading. Although during this module I've discovered it is processing written words that I struggle mostly with. It is because of this I have an autodidactic approach. It is through experimentation and experiential investigation that I learn and create my work. I've used this assignment to investigate my own practice by looking at how others represent the environment in their work, their methodologies and motivations. The works of Edward Burtynsky and David Maisel mostly deal with huge manipulations of the land. Burtynsky says in an article for the New Yorker, his methodology is more a contemplative moment than Bresson's famous decisive moment. About the environment, he says, there has been a discussion for a long time about climate change, but we don't seem to be ceasing anything. However, the same article talks about him using convoys of SUVs and 2 helicopters at just one location. Maisel says that photographing the Mount St Helens eruption opened his eyes to aerial photography, and capturing the visual archaeology, as he puts it, of Mayan and Inca architecture also influenced his work. He says, "I'm documenting and cataloguing that which our current civilization might leave behind." Unlike Burtynsky, who's embraced the environmental movement, Maisel says he's not an environmentalist, and that his primary interest is in making interesting photographs. Although they do have environmental concerns, and they are based on sites that have undergone intensive environmental transformations. In Mitch Epstein's ongoing project, American Power, he says he's dealing with the overpowering encroachment of industry. German photographer Jürgen Nevsky uses similar ideas in his series Fluffy Clouds, but deals exclusively with nuclear power. I immediately recognised Seascale Golf Course next to the Sellafield reprocessing plant, as I lived in Seascale until I was 10. This is Chapel Cross nuclear power station, which was about 10 miles from where I moved to. And close to where I live now is Transfeneth. When researching environmental issues, one phrase keeps cropping up: the Anthropocene. There are many questions and arguments around the Anthropocene. Are we entering a new epoch or not? Are we just making Anthropocenic events in our present epoch, the Holocene? If we are in or entering a new geological age, when did it start? The International Union of Geological Sciences has convened a group of scientists to answer these questions. Several approximate dates have been proposed for the start of the Anthropocene. 50,000 years ago is one, being the beginning of mass extinctions by human intervention, the Diprotodon and giant kangaroo for example. Around 12,000 years ago is another, this being the start of farming, when we started to clear forests for agriculture. The 18th century, the Industrial Revolution, is a strong contender, when the Western world started to change the landscape, pollute rivers, land and the lakes on a scale never seen before. The most recent date put forward for the Anthropocene is quite precise. At 5:29 a.m. on Monday the 16th of July 1945, the US Army detonated the first nuclear bomb, releasing uranium isotopes into the atmosphere for the first time in the Earth's history. This will certainly be an easy geological marker for future generations. In her article, The Anthropocene, Foregone or Premature Conclusion, C.J. Kumo warns against using the term Anthropocene as an easy label. She argues declaring the Holocene over could have damaging effects, meaning we should take note of our surroundings and encourage change, environmental, social and ethical, rather than using a new and fatalistic label. The Dutch photographer Walt Berger said in a discussion for the Ecotopia exhibition at the International Centre of Photography, "I photograph small patches of land because nature is persistently withdrawing from the landscape." Gibblet states in the book Photography and Landscape that the Dutch introduced the word landscape to the language in the 16th century, saying, "Landscape is an aesthetic category, a pictorial representation of the countryside." After photographing the Mount St. Helens area, Maisel started taking photographs of deforestation, remarking that the devastation of logging looked the same as that of the volcano's eruption. Robert Adams' work, Turning Back, is also looking at deforestation. From Oregon to the coast, he photographed the clear-cut forests. I too am slowly collecting forestry photographs. The shocking difference is that my photographs are of trees planted as a cash crop, like wheat or maize. Adams' and Maisel's are mostly ancient old-growth forest. In my project, Lines in the Landscape, I'm looking at the marks left behind from historical interventions, roads and tracks, the tram and railways from mining and quarrying. I'm fascinated how these landscapes have changed over time. Each line tells a story. They are reminders of past generations and will remain there for generations to come. I look at how these workings have covered over and can't help comparing them to the healed scars on the human body. In the same way that a cut that takes a split second can scar a body for a lifetime, these lines in the landscape represent a moment in geological time. Maybe they're the early wounds of the Anthropocene. There are other lines in the landscape that I'm drawn to. Walls, fences and borders. Most of these date from around the 1800s, but the strip fields of Cheltenham in Derbyshire are said locally to be medieval. In a way, it's the opposite to Maisel's approach. I'm documenting and cataloguing that which a past generation has left behind. This photograph, entitled Emerald Greens of an Enchanted Woodland by Darren Keoli Leach, was taken close to where I once lived in Derbyshire. Around 200 years ago it was a working gritstone quarry. I wonder what Brinskoll Quarry or any of the sites of the photographs of Bertinsky, Maisel, Epstein or Nevska will look like in that timescale. What I'm coming to realise in this research is that whilst I thought I was investigating human interaction with nature, I think what I've been revealing is actually the opposite: nature's interaction with man. This has opened up new lines of inquiry and will hopefully lead to new works and projects. I think we're in a new age where understanding environmental issues is becoming the new normal. Maybe we're beyond the need for huge photographs of destruction. Maybe now we need to be looking for cleverer as well as more positive ways of working. Otherwise, we might end up in the Anthropocene.